Welcome to the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we celebrate the power, brilliance, and resilience of women everywhere. I'm your host, Shanasia Washington. Join us as we share inspiring stories and insights from extraordinary women who have found their voice and are making a difference. Together, we'll create a ripple effect, illuminating the path to visibility and empowerment. Let's break barriers, shatter ceilings, and lift each other up. In each episode, we dive deep into the journeys of women who have turned their challenges into triumphs and their dreams into reality. Whether you're looking for motivation, guidance, or a community that understands your journey, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and remember, let your voice shine. And just like that, we've landed another amazing episode of the Her Voice Shines podcast. I'm your fabulous host, Shanasia Washington, streaming from none other than the super rainy and stormy Houston, Texas. I'm just saying hurricane season, please be kind. I don't really have time for it. But guess what? When I see my guest today, all of that shifted because I'm so happy that she's here. And she's going to come to the stage, do our normal drill, tell us her name, where she's streaming from, and we get the magic of that story without any further waiting time. Here's my very beautiful guest for today.
Hi, everybody. I am Terri Ann Russell, and I'm coming to you from Gilbert, Arizona. My story is really long and intertwined, beginning in childhood with growing up with narcissistic parents, just quickly marrying into a narcissistic marriage for over 18 years. And it was really a period of deep transformation for me. I couldn't see through the darkness at that time. There was so much that was going on. When I was 40 years old, I became pregnant with my fourth child, who was a daughter after 3 sons, and she was born sick. So my ex-husband and I at the time, it was already a tumultuous marriage. He really went off the deep end. And one night he attacked me and tried to kill me, and he tried to take what was sacred, which was my voice. And for so long I had hidden my voice away and just learned to keep the peace and do what I was told. And that worked for a long time. But at that moment, I knew that there was no going back and that I had to leave, and I had to take my daughter, and I had to protect us. Within that time, so many things had happened in my life. And after I left him, she became sicker. And so she was in and out of hospitals for over 3 years, getting blood transfusions. Every month we'd be in the hospital just to keep her alive at that time. And through the power of the Holy Spirit, I was guided to Reiki, which is the laying of the hands. I grew up Catholic, so I'm very familiar with the laying of hands. I had not heard of Reiki, but I trained in Reiki, and I looked for an alternative way to heal my daughter, to keep her in a place of health. And so within a year, she was healthy, and she was growing, and she was thriving, and we were safe. Fast forward another couple of years, and my son, who was 27 at the time, suddenly passed away with a condition that was similar to my daughter. And if I had at that point thought I had been through it all, this took me through the ringer. I prayed and prayed for God to take me. I did not want to be here without my child. And so I went through this huge, deep internal transformation. Now I look back at it and I call it the soul sacred alchemy of my life. It's truly been a blessing to be where I am today. So that's a little bit about me and my story, just really quick.
Listen here, Terri Ann Russell, that was a lot. And we're not, no, because this place is for that. Because sometimes we see this picture of what is now, and we have no idea what it took to get to this particular picture. So I tell people all the time, I get the opportunity on the spot to honor Terri Ann Russell and give her roses now. Give her roses now for the resilient journey, for being a woman that does not look like what she's been through, and still having the urge to push and tell the story. I do not take it lightly. In that, let's go back a little bit, because you said you had went through a 20-year marriage, right? And it was marked with domestic abuse and all of these things. Tell me about the moment you finally got the courage to leave. We know about the attack, and you said he attacked me and my daughter was sick. But tell me, where was that place where Terri Ann Russell said, this is not it? And where did the courage come from?
It really came deep from within. In those moments, as he was taking my last breath, he was strangling me on the bed. It was my daughter who saved my life, literally. Literally, she was born to save my life. She came in at that moment and started screaming. He did stop. But through those moments where I was fighting for breath, I dug deep. But I did have guidance. My grandmother, who had passed the year before, was with me. She was watching and she was waiting, and she told me that it wouldn't always be like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that really is the moment that I remember that gave me the courage then to continue on, because I did not want that for my daughter. That was not something that I wanted her to growing up and living that experience. So for me, those moments were very pivotal in shifting me out of all that was.
Absolutely. And they never really leave us, right? Those ones we really, really love. I know it's
Never.
I know it's something, it gives me chills saying it, but they never do. They really never do. I know it's hard to think about when they're not here physically, but I can tell you this, and it's an excellent segue into my next question. Because for me, I mean, I've come from a large family and I've had to experience lots of death, particularly because my paternal grandparents raised me and they were older generation. So I got to meet great grandparents and see a slew of their, colleagues, friends, and people in their age group. They're 80 plus now. So I've had to be around, unfortunately, a lot of death, right? But the death that really shook my core is when my aunt was 43 years old back in 2013 and had an allergic reaction and died on her porch and left 3 children behind. It was the death that shifted my entire life. If I can think about all of the deaths, and we've had a lot of young people, we just had a large family, but that was the death that changed me forever. I am never the same person before that thing happened to me.
Yes.
You described your son's death as both the deepest grief, but at the same time, the greatest awakening. Parallel for me, exact same thing. Tell me what shifted in your spiritual journey. What shifted that spiritual path? Because for me, the biggest shift I've had in adulthood was that death.
Yeah, it was that was not instantaneous. That was a progression. As we're coming up, it's just almost 6 years now, and I still struggle. There's days that I struggle, but most days I'm in the space of that I give back and I give what I know, because in that moment in his passing, I knew there had to be a bigger reason. I knew that there had to be a bigger purpose behind what this is, that God would not take my son had he not needed him more than I had needed him. And then I did not lose him, like you said. I was very fortunate. I was surrounded by such a loving community. And we lived in Sedona, Arizona. And so I had the support that I needed. And I began writing a book. And through that writing, I found it to be very cathartic for me. I was able to verbalize and get those feelings that were so heavy out of my body. And when I wrote that book, it's the sharing of that book and how vulnerable and raw it is for people to read, that people will reach out and they say, I could have never imagined that someone could survive the death of a child. How did you do it? And they explain that, they read the book and they've had tremendous shifts themselves into having a higher perspective of understanding, I guess, that we don't ever die. Our loved ones are still always with us. And, for me, up until that point, I had only lost grandparents well into their 90s. I had been very fortunate, other than my daughter who was sick and had a couple of near-death experiences. I had never knew anyone that lost a child. So for me, it was something so out of the ordinary. And I still believe that it's out of the ordinary. It's out of the normal realm of things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even with that, it definitely is still out of the ordinary. I still truly believe that. And like I say, maybe unfortunately being in this space, I know several mothers that are blood related to me and beyond that have lost children. And I mean, I'm a mother. I have not lost a child, but there's a level of empathy from being with my grandparents who lost a child who was my aunt. Like I said, it changed me forever, Terri. And so thank you for sharing that. You said something I thought that was very charged. You said alchemizing pain into purpose. I was like, okay, that has a ring to it. I kind of like it because it just kind of stood out when I was looking through the form. Tell me what that means specifically. You said it kind of in the open segment. I want you to tell me what that means for you and really how you shape that into a healing practice, because it's really the healing. And in people who have really had to go through some severe healing, it is an ongoing battle. I'm just being real with you. So I just want you to talk about that, Miss Terri.
Absolutely. It truly is. It is an ongoing practice. And I say that all the time. Just because I'm almost 6 years in doesn't mean that it doesn't get easier, if I could say that. I have healed a lot tremendously, but it doesn't get easier. So alchemy to me is truly chemically changing that pain into purpose. I was able to channel through that pain a purpose that would come and be so much bigger than what I could ever imagine. I've had those glimpses of death where it was like I wanted to take my own life in those moments. And I would look at my daughter and I would say, how can I turn this pain into this beautiful purpose? What am I supposed to be doing with this? I prayed daily to God, please help me understand what it is that I'm supposed to do through this process. And that alchemizing is really how you work through that pain and that healing. For me, I was fortunate because I was immersed in the healing world of energy healing. And that helped my physical body really release some of that heaviness that I was feeling. I think up until that time, I had not really understood what the physical effects of grief were. I understood the emotional effects of grief, but I never understood really the physical effects of grief and how heavy my chest was and how I became so ill in those few years after his passing. My body was hypersensitive. My nervous system was shot. I gained 40 pounds. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I was barely functioning. And to be able to dive down deep into that pain, I always credit it to my faith. It's one thing that truly helped me move through that process. I don't believe without my faith that I would be here today, alchemizing that pain into purpose.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely something about that physical piece. I think for me, during my deepest part of grief, I really play with my own life when it comes to physical side of it. Miss, I'm being honest with you, because I was working like 65-hour weeks in a financial services position that was highly stressful, bank regulated, and I literally clocked in at 60 foot. I didn't know what to do with the grief, so I just worked at that time, and I would just go in and get there at 6:30 a.m. and I was leaving like at 8 p.m. It's like, what the heck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And I did that for at least a couple, 2-3 years after, and not even realize, like, when I started to really unpack it and then go through it, I just really could not believe the toll that I put on myself. My diet was horrible. Obviously, if I'm working all these hours, lots of times I'm leaving, I'm getting late dinner, it's sucky food, fast food, all these different things. But I really was just kind of, and I always say that was my walking dead period for me. Because I was like around, obviously you see this girl, she's around physically, she's here, but she's really not here. She's a robot just cranking out things and just doing different things. And I was really grateful that I survived in that moment for the toll that I put on my body, heavy, heavy toll for an extended period of time before I could figure out what was wrong. I just didn't know, because we just kind of, as a family, we just kind of did nothing really, but tried to go back to life that wasn't the same anymore. So.
And everybody deals with grief differently, right? I had a son, my oldest son, he threw himself into work, just like you, constantly working, barely sleeping, just surviving, like you said, like a zombie moving through the motions. And my youngest son honestly began drinking, and that's how he helped numb his pain. And everybody goes through grief so differently, and I always say this, none of us are going to be immune. All of us are going to go, and all of us are going to experience death at one time or another. And so just understanding that everybody has their own process to go through. It's not, the old way of thinking where, oh, it's been a year, you should be over it by now. Those ways are falling to the wayside.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also to that level of empathy, because you just said it looks different for everybody, because just because I didn't do the thing, going out to drink or whatever, but guess what? I was also too doing detrimental damage to my body by doing the work thing. So it takes that judgment away of how people actually navigate and deal with things. I'm not saying that people should be held accountable. That's not what I'm saying. But it adds an extra level of an empathetic lens when you can really understand that people are going to react differently as they process something as heavy as grief. I know that you're helping people really through their transformational work, which I'm so happy that you're putting all of this back into the earth to tell people on this podcast. Well, thank you for for using this to cleanse and help. Tell me really about how you balance mind, body, and soul in your transformational healing of others, because these are things that are at play. Sometimes people will hyper heal one area, but still all of these things work together really for holistic healing. So I really want you to talk about that balance between mind, body, and soul really in your transformational work.
Yes, absolutely. So for me, my biggest struggle has always been the physical body. That's something that, because it was very natural for me to be very intuitive and in touch with that piece of me. Being here on earth is difficult. And a lot of times, even as a child, I would leave my body, traumatic things would happen, and I'd sort of disconnect and check out. And not until much later that I was immersed in this world did I learn the sacredness of the mind, body, soul connection, and how all three really work in this powerful aspect to come together. And when you can move through one piece or the next piece or the next, because it's not one without the other. You can have all the spiritual you want, but if you don't have the physical and you don't have the mental capacity, you're going to have nothing. So it is about the blending of the mind, the body, and the soul. This is a balance. And I always talk about with my clients is that we are both made of masculine and feminine. We both have the masculine way of doing things and the feminine way of doing things. And often, if you're someone like me who grew up in that very masculine dominated world and could not and did not have the support of a man, I always had to be the one who did everything myself. So I would find myself doing everything, wearing all the hats, people pleasing, doing everything for everyone. And that piece of me was really non-existent, where I was able to just be and understand. So as my journey progressed, I began to see clients that would also have similar experiences to my own. And as I would sit there and pray and I would ask, I gained this deeper level of understanding, if you will, that there's so much that encompasses our daily life. And because we are such a distracted community, we're always going or doing or grinding or hustling, whatever it looks like for you. And we're taught to do that from a young age. I mean, you see these kids nowadays. My daughter's 15 today and she's healthy and she's thriving, but they really push these kids to continually go, go, go. And I think you're starting to see the shift for her. She's very fortunate because I've taught her the value of using her voice to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Or no, that's too much for me. Or no, I need to take a time out and I'm going to step away from that now. I think that says a lot to the ways that things are shifted and changing in the communities.
For sure. And I love this extra focus. I mean, and part of course, what I do is, particularly women, helping them stand firm in that voice. Because, we can't go back and, do butterfly effect, what if happened. But there's so many situations, I was like, dang, if I was this version of myself then, they wouldn't have stood a chance. And I mean that. So to see that growth, for me, number one, is powerful. The other part of it is, how do I help particularly younger women before they have to go through some of the things that I went through when their voice was not so much intact. So I'm so happy that you placed that emphasis on voice for your daughter. I love it. Tell me, what do you think is some of the misconceptions of healing after trauma? Because when I when I was going through my healing process and I would think about probably my mindset maybe 4 years before this point, I was kind of nuts, Miss Terri. I was a little nuts. But because I had some misconceptions on how long we talked about a little bit, how long it should take, what it should look like. But it just was not. It was because of the lack of clarity, really, at that time. So tell me, what do you think that some of those misconceptions are from healing after trauma?
Yeah, well, if I'm being real, The first book I read by Eckhart Tolle, and he talked about the pain body and understanding how our pain body interacts with other pain bodies, and how our children are not ours, and all these things. And at that time, I thought I was transformed. I was so naive in the whole world, and that's really before all of this began. Um, I honestly do not believe that we're ever done healing on this journey, because I believe that it's layers. And I believe that as we go through our process and we're unlayering, and I call it unlayering because I like how it sort of expresses that, right? We may go through the process of unlayering limiting beliefs about money, say, and then, we will have worked on our stuff. We will have healed a lot of those beliefs. Now come a few years down the road, and bam, there it is again in the face. And you're like, I thought I worked through this. I'll have clients that say, well, I thought I did that already. And I'm like, well, there's a deeper level of understanding now. There's more that your soul is asking you to look at, because that level of understanding, how my guides describe it, is sort of like a smorgasbord of food. We can't go to a buffet and eat it all and shove it all in our mouth and be able to digest it, right? We're going to vomit. So we need to slowly take that information in, digest it, integrate it, and then allow for that learning to come through that process. And then again, now something's going to come up for us to look at again and see where are some more limiting beliefs around that. So it is like diving just deeper into it. But I don't believe that we are ever fully done healing or doing our work while we're living in this human body.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? At every kind of turn, right? Because you got to this point, you don't know what tomorrow holds, right? It could be another big shift, or maybe even a smaller shift, right? And I think that part of understanding what the healing and work process look like is so important, because you just do not know the next wave, right? At least I can't tell you what's going to happen next year, next month. But I've been so intentional about getting to know myself and understanding really how I'm designed to navigate this space. I'm not saying it makes these pivots any easier, Miss Terri, but I am saying there's something in me that's grounded to always healing and bettering myself, that helps me walk the journey probably lighter than I would have did 10 years ago. Is basically what I'm saying, or 13 years ago. Let me ask you this, because you've kind of gone from survivor to speaker, and we should make this like present, surviving to speaking. What do you hope that it feels like after Miss Terri leaves the space? Or what do you hope it feels like when you leave the stage? Is it something that keeps me grounded in how I show up and how my interactions go? What do you hope that feeling feels like when they leave a place with Miss Terri Ann Russell?
Yeah. I really hope and pray that I have done all the work that my soul has wanted me to do, so that I could go on and I can live an existence that's authentic, and I hope people see that the voice is so important. And our voice, many times as women from a young age, is taken away. And we don't realize the magnitude of what that actually really means. And so I think for me, my legacy after I leave would be just leaving with people that I would hope that you remember to celebrate your wins and to enjoy every moment that you have here, and just really be grateful and thankful for the moment that you're in, even the hard moments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that is what I'm dealing with even now. I feel like there's so many moving parts. How do I get this footing? How do I balance motherhood and caregiving and all these different things and running the business? And some days it just feels tough, Miss Terri Russell. It feels tough. And I'm like, I am going to throw in the towel. I'm done. But there's something over me. And I always say this because every morning my prayers, and I said it kind of a lot on these past few recordings. So it just must be something in the air. My prayer is always that my joy is never taken, because whatever's going on, the pain, the hurt, whatever financial, if I have joy, I always have something to give.
Yes.
Always.
I truly believe that.
I truly believe that. That's my life's prayer, if anything else, because I'm like, excuse my language, but okay, all hell's breaking loose. There's literally nothing I can do, Miss Terri, to put all these balls in play. I honestly cannot do it. But I am declaring right now that none of this is even worthy of my joy being ripped. And I always live a rich life because of that. And I truly believe that. I really do. And that is life's mission. So thank you for sharing that. I have a bunch more questions, but I'm trying to get the meaty ones in. Really good. Let me ask you this, because you help people. And I do a lot of helping myself. But how do you hold space for others, but also stay grounded? Because sometimes when you're helping people that's been in the ruts that you've been in, it's just hard to really just stay grounded, because I'm still in some instance doing a part of a work that's going to forever go. So I have to stay grounded while helping some people that may be in some really muddy situations. So what is your approach to that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I don't think it's talked about enough, in my opinion. I do spend, in order to do the work that I do spend a lot of time alone. I do spend a lot of time in nature. I'm very fortunate to live in Arizona. So we have, full winters of hiking and getting out there. In the summers, I'm able to immerse myself in the lakes and the pools. So for me, being in nature is very grounding for me, spending time outdoors. I have to make it a priority for myself in order to help the people that I help and bring them through those experiences that they're going through. It is so important for me to be able to do that grounding work. And because, as I said, I'm very naturally intuitive, that comes very natural for me. I love to be out of my body and floating around and just stuff like that. But grounding does not come natural for me. And that's because of when I was a child, the trauma I had, right? I would leave my body when trauma would come in. When the officer told us that he passed, I left my body. That was very normal for me. And that's part of the psych part of our brain that protects us from those traumas, right? So we sort of leave our body and we disconnect. That's very natural for me. Grounding is not very natural for me. So that's a practice that I actually, even though I love doing all those things, hiking and getting in the water, I have to make sure that I cultivate that time out of my day to make sure that I do that. If I've worked 4 hours today and I'm busy doing podcasts or I'm writing or whatever I'm doing, I also try to balance that with 4 hours of time by myself. And if that doesn't look like 4 hours today, maybe next week it looks like 4 hours. So it's just about, again, finding that balance between the body, mind, and soul.
Mm-hmm. Very, very good. And that solitude, that is my go-to. Like, I know, and I tell people this often, like, I know you guys see me like on the podcast, and I love my podcast, but after the podcast goes off, I'm just still the same nerdy girl that's want to watch court TV and read books. Like, I don't really have, I don't have anything else kind of like after this, because this is my life's work. So I show up to do my work. But after that, like, I'm not life of the party. I'm going back over there and do the things that kind of keep me grounded, which is being able to read like I like to read and watch documentaries and all the nerdy things. But that is my grounding place that feels safe for me. And I do it as early as often as I have to make sure that I'm fueled for this ride. So thanks for that. Now, Ms. Terri, I want to have a clean segment where you give us the kind of overarching goals or just a little bit about the services that you provide. Also, give us some contact points, whether that's your email or your website or social handles, whatever you want to provide for contact, do it here, and I will allow you to do that now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You can find me on Linktree under Terri Ann Russell. I have a podcast on YouTube and Spotify and Apple. It's Sacred Wellness with Terri Ann Russell. I'm really all over Facebook, Sassy Soul Healing. Sassy Soul is my sort of pen name also. I love the name Sassy Soul. So you can find me there. But, I love sharing anything and everything. I'm very transparent. And when you work with me, I think you find that, I'm very authentic in what I do. And I love what I do. And I think that's what comes through in my voice and my message today.
Absolutely. And a very calming presence. I can tell that you've done work. Let me be honest, because they know I go honesty here. There are people that come to my podcast and they tell me they've done work, and I can tell that they still have a lot more work to do. But that's not. Don't laugh.
I heard you, but I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, because when you've truly gotten to a place of work, and you not only you've gotten to a place, but you're continuously doing work, it shows in your spirit. It shows in your interactions. And I'm like, this is not to bash, because they'll say all these things. I'm like, okay, I'm still going to honor you and respect you in this space, but as a person who's truly committed to this, you always can recognize other people who have done that and other people that are in earlier stages of their journey. So I just want to tell you thank you. I want to thank you for coming to share all those things here with us, because I don't take it lightly. I really appreciate it, and we hope to cultivate a space where those kind of things feel natural and we just have the conversation. Well, listen now, Miss Terri, I have a rapid fire round for you. I have pre-prepared 10 questions. So you don't get a whole lot of extra. You just get maybe a word or a couple sentences, but it's just to keep you fresh and grounded. And we're going to kick it off with question number 1. A word that defines the chapter of your life right now.
Superior.
Yes. I didn't expect that one. I love it. Give me a scripture or maybe even a quote that carried you on your darkest day. Something kind of rang in your head, or it don't have to be a scripture, just maybe something you like. I just felt this is the energy of this season right now.
Yeah, it actually would have to be one of my own. And it's like, not only did I defy death, but I defied death.
Oh, say it again. Not only did I defy death, but
I defied death.
Look, I got chills. I'm serious, because it seems light, but not only did I defy death, I defied death.
Yes.
That's real life. Tell me a sacred ritual. It ain't gonna be sacred, but just maybe a practice that kind of keeps you in there. For me, it's the meditation for sure. But what else? Is there something else that you may do that's kind of like, that's my thing to kind of ground?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My husband and I have a practice. I trained my husband in Reiki as well. So we do a weekly Sunday night bath, and we do eye gazing in the bath together, and we put our hands on our hearts, and we spend about a half hour in there really deeply connecting. And it's amazing the love and the connection and the support that comes through an experience like that. That's something that I have to do. If we don't do it, like if we're really busy that week and we don't do it, we can really feel it in how we've set up our week to play out.
Do you have a book, or it could be a podcast, movie that you really felt that changed your life or really gave you a good perspective, that's kind of worth sharing?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle was a life changer for me. I read that in 2008.
I am so sorry to stop you, and I got the proof for this. I have recorded some podcasts this week, and this is the 6th one. This is the 6th podcast episode this week where the Power of Now has appeared, and I had it to read. I promise you, I need to actually have the team clip the people. This is the 6th time that the Power of Now has come.
Yeah, they're like, the Power of Now, buy it.
Yes, no, I mean it tells, but I mean it's speaking to me. I am in a place where I can receive it. It's speaking to me, because every month I'm like, wow, I don't have this together. I don't have this. Baby, you have to do it now. You can't worry about this, that, and the power of now is so powerful. You cannot worry about what you don't have. What you have is enough right now to do something with. And every time it tries to come up, Miss Terri, every time it tries to come up, he sends somebody my way to tell me, if you don't act it now, then shame on you. He tells me. So thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna clip that, because this is number 6. I've been telling it. It's number 6 this week that somebody has said the power of now, and that's very crazy.
That's awesome. I love it.
This is crazy. Tell me the first thing you do at your dream retreat. You have this retreat. People are here. What are you guys going to kick off and do?
Well, I love the power of dance. So ecstatic dance would be number 1 on my thing to do. And it's just so powerful. And you learn to really be in tune with your body through those movements.
Tell me about something that you do, or what is the feeling that comes over Miss Terri right before she hits that stage? What you like?
I honestly, for me, it's all out tears. I am just so grateful that I'm still here, that I'm still alive, and that I can share my message. Because as I said, my voice was almost taken out of me, and strangulation is so powerful, and to not have it and to be able to have it now. I'm just always so grateful when I have an opportunity to use my voice and to speak the power of my voice.
So powerful. Tell me, what does home feel like for you now? What is home? I know I'm home. It doesn't have to be a physical building, or when you hear home, what does that feel like?
It's peace. I've cultivated a life of peace because
Mhm.
even though I do have some chaos once in a while that arises within my life, I still try to bring, as you said, you use the joy aspect, and I use the peace aspect. More often than not, I cannot be pulled out of my peaceful space, but sometimes that inner girl's got to come out from the hood, and she's got to bring it through to show you she's still there.
I'm still here. Let me go here, and this is the final one. Legacy to me is.
Healing generational trauma.
Miss Terri Ann Russell, that when I tell you, it has shifted so much for me. It used to, if you could have asked me probably even in 2020 what I thought legacy was for me. But when I started to walk my journey further after that, and have all kind of internal shifts and all kind of heartbreaks and all kind of pivots, I am there with you. Because at the end of the day, the money, all this stuff can go. It can go. It won't keep me rooted.
Yeah.
It will never keep me rooted in this journey. I will never not say that I won't get up and try and do the best thing for my brand, or try and do this and that. I do have a certain level, of aspiration, right? That's going to be in me. It's always has. But at the end of the day, I worked, I had the career, I had the corporate, all this kind of stuff, and I was miserable. And I lost my grounding. I lost my footing. So that, to heal, to speak, to pour, to be joyous, legacy all day. And I mean that. So listen now, Miss Terri, this is the part in our show where we tell our guests, we're going to cue over you for final thoughts. We tell you, give us some good parting words for this space, and really something that captures the essence of Miss Terri Ann Russell. I'll cue over you for final thoughts, and I'll be back to close the show.
Okay. My final thoughts would be just that there is a deeper level, a higher perspective of understanding, and it doesn't always define you, but there's a truth within you that your internal self always knows, your higher self. And if you can get through some of the darker, heavier times, that piece of you is always existing, and it's so much bigger than what we actually see in this physical 3D world.
Beautiful. And let me again tell you thank you, because the space we share, like I told you, I don't take this lightly. These are really conversations that are designed to be like, if I met Miss Terri Ann Russell in the grocery store at the park, we would have had the same conversation. And that's what the space is designed to be like and feel like. But to everyone out there in the Her Voice Shines podcast land, I thank you for being here. I never take it lightly. I tell you, like the old church folks say, I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And miraculous things happen when you let your voice shine. Until next time, we'll be back with another fabulous woman on the Her Voice Shines podcast. And we love you.